Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and once again, it is Monday and time for your favorite time of the day. I hope it is time to thrive, turn uncertainty into your competitive advantage. I have a very old friend with me today, quite the champion when it comes to startups, founding a company, and everything that you need to know to deal with every obstacle and take advantage of every opportunity you have in front of me. So, Andy, I am going to hit the video, start this show, and we're going to dive in to a powerful conversation that I know everybody is going to benefit from. All right. Once again, it is Monday, time to thrive and turn uncertainty to competitive advantage. I have none other than the host of the what is it? What is the name of the show
It's
again?
the
Startup Live show, correct?
Startup life. It's all about founder journeys and startup life.
And you are a four-time founder. In fact, when we were back in the green room, we were just trying to decide how long it had been since we've connected. And Andy said it'd probably been four businesses ago for her, right?
I measure my life and my businesses.
So, just for those of us jumping in with us today, tell us a little bit about you and your passion for startups and being an entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on this wonderful moment and to talk about all that's delicious in the startup world. As a founder who has had four businesses, and none of mine were planned. They all came to my door like a stray cat yowling to come in. The first one being a .com, the second one being food. I mean, with the shelf life, what was I thinking? Another favorite was with relationships, how to stay tuned in and turned on with your beloved year after year. Oh my
Wow.
gosh. And then, of course, coaching along the way and supporting other founders, has been just the love of my life. And when the pandemic hit, I said, gosh, I can't be, running around Boston. I'm heavily entrenched in the Boston startup life. I still need to talk to my peeps around the world. And so I launched in April 2020, the Startup Life live show. And I had done live video shows before in Google Plus, but here in the StreamYard platform, it's so much fun to get out and talk about the world, but also to amplify diverse founder voices. We get plenty of our dear beloved white male founders
Yeah.
knocking it out of the park, but I really feel representation is so important, Meredith, because if you can see it, you can be it. So I find founders around the world who are rocking it, and I love to amplify their voices.
So, when the pandemic hit, did you find that did more people begin businesses? Did it back off? Like, how did the pandemic impact the startup community?
Well, I think people had a big wake up call when the pandemic hit because people don't talk about when you're launching a business. They talk about all the things that can go wrong, but they never talk about that force that is so out of your control,
Yeah.
right? So, what I saw during the pandemic was a lot of pivoting. People were realizing that perhaps their business needed to be this way to reach their customers or be that way. And some businesses just had to let go. They had to say, goodbye, this won't work during this time, and I'll create something later. But many of the businesses had an actual silver lining moment. It just was mind blowing to see how these founders took this high level of uncertainty, Meredith, and turned it into opportunity.
So let's dive a little bit into that because that really is the whole premise of the show. I mean, we've always lived with uncertainty, but COVID really put it on steroids, correct? And it doesn't
Right.
seem to be letting go at all.
No,
I mean, goodness,
no.
we all thought we'd be well out of this come 2021,
Oh,
and here we
everything's changed.
yeah.
Everything's changed. And especially the remote work has changed. People just don't need to go to an office anymore, which has brought in so much more time in their lives. But let's get back to founders.
Yeah.
Founders are problem solvers. Okay. So when a founder is a newbie founder just starting out, leaving their employee world behind, they're building the muscle of uncertainty because there is no better personal development program out there than launching a business. You're going to find out things about yourself that you didn't would never have known, but it is a muscle. So you're going to deal constantly with uncertainty, But boy, it's amazing when you look back just a month or 90 days or half a year, you're like, wow, that used to bother me, but I'm so over that now. I've got other uncertainty I'm dealing with now. So it becomes just part of the journey. It's a roller coaster ride. I often say to folks, one minute you're popping the champagne, the next minute you're
Oh,
crying into the
so true.
champagne.
My husband says that all the time. One day I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. I have so much work. I can't even keep up." And the next week I'm just crying because I haven't had a call and nothing's coming in. I mean, it's just that constant, up and down. But as you've been interviewing founders and, and these innovators who are starting businesses, what have been some of the common themes? What have they done well to kind of navigate this uncertainty and just get off the map and get going?
Right. Well, most of it has been being transparent with their team, right?
Mm,
And with the uncertainty and pulling that brain pan together of all the different types and folks and saying, hey, here's the reality. And I've seen the best of the leaders just get on that Zoom call and go, okay, so life as we know it is over,
mhm.
and let's talk about how we can move forward, and then really providing the leadership for that, but then allowing the magic to happen in the team, who can say, okay, well, this is how we did it before, but now we got to think completely out of the box. Here's how we're going to reach folks, here's how we're going to make things happen. And then for those businesses that did have to come to a screeching halt, never to come back again, that was hard.
Yeah.
But what the good leaders did was talk about what they all gained from the time they had together, and then where are they going to repurpose that? Or, go back to work for somebody, step back and rethink. Folks, you don't have to have the hit out of the park with your first business.
Yeah.
Each business teaches you everything you need to know, and then more as you move on to the next. And you hear investors say this all the time: I'm in it because this founder will figure it out, or I'm going to be in it on their next gig
Yeah,
because they're
exactly.
amazing.
Well, I think that, I think one of the things that it can be hard for business to realize is that you look at any company that's been around for a long time, and they have had very lean, almost
Yeah.
years that technically on paper, they were technically out of business, right?
Right.
What do you think it is, when you look at a founder, what are the things that they need to be doing to shore themselves up, to make sure that they
Oof.
have the resilience and the fortitude to kind of ride those waves?
That's right, because feeling inadequate as a founder is almost a daily
Oh,
thing. And it
completely.
doesn't it doesn't matter if you've got 3 successful businesses behind you. There is a phenomenal TED Talk by an Australian bajillionaire who talks about how even on the 4th business, he had founder doubt. So, and I ask this question on every show: when you feel inadequate, how have you shifted your mindset? And boy, the number one thing is to really tune in with other founders. Find a group of other founders you can
Mhm.
talk to, because they are the only ones who know what you're going through. Have mentors on board that are there to help you, not just advisors, but the mentors that will hold your hand during the tough times. I personally say, don't tell your family and friends. They are not cut out to be entrepreneurs. They're watching you like a train wreck about to happen, and it's a nail biting experience for them. Always tell them you're fine, okay?
Right.
And then other folks will say, meditation has been instrumental for them, going out for a walk, that self care, taking that one day. You may recall Stephen Covey always talked about this: take that one day to just completely tune out. 24 hours, don't do anything, and allow yourself to sift and filter and chill and relax. That self care is so important because you can get burnt out. Entrepreneurship, running your business can be an addiction. It's like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
if you're not part of the solution, get out of the way. It just can become full time, and you have to put in those practices. And then the time management. If you got to bring someone on, like one of my favorites, Whitney A. White is one of the best take back your time people I know, because things can just, you don't know how to set the
Yeah.
boundaries and how to say no.
Yeah. Well, Khalif here has a great question. He says, "I apologize for interrupting. First of all, you are not interrupting. That's what we want you to do. Can I ask about the most important strategies of independence in technical work, and what is your advice to those trying to demoralize you?"
Oh, you set up a really big boundary, Khalil, and that is such a great question. when people see you succeeding, doing something that they probably would like to have happen in their life, they're going to try to knock you down. And anybody who tries to belittle you or marginalize you, you have to either, put them way into the distance or absolutely get them out of your life. You can only surround yourself with people who believe in you and your dreams. In fact, today, one of my posts on Instagram is about how you have to parent your dream until it can support itself, right?
Right.
You have to constantly be nurturing and feeding and putting light into that dream. And that includes the people you allow into your inner sphere. So you have to take those folks who might be speaking your own thoughts of inadequacy and just say, I cannot listen to you. I need to bring the people into my life who understand what I'm trying to do and believe in me and are going to cheer me on. Cheerleaders and believers are the most important people in your life when you're launching a business.
No kidding. And sometimes those people who quote unquote demoralize us are people that love us. I mean, like I know both of my parents, the first time I quit a corporate job, they just about fainted because they just want me to be safe and happy and able to
Right.
pay my bills. So, so the whole idea that I was going out on my own out of love, they were trying to,
Oh, they want to
undermine.
protect you.
They want to
Yeah.
protect you. So I think part of it too is putting people in, helping them. They don't have it in them to start a business. So what
Right.
you're doing is too scary. I think also it's getting people around us that, because I think you said this so well, not every business is successful. And you have to start a few sometimes to eventually get to the point where
Right.
one will win, but you can't learn the process
And,
until you
and
go through it.
folks, yeah, two things that you have to remember when you're launching a business: timing. Think
Yeah.
Airbnb or Uber. You wouldn't have gotten to a stranger's car, and you certainly wouldn't have had a stranger come into your home. That would never have worked in the 90s. Okay. It had to take the 2008 economic crisis for those companies to succeed. Same thing with your value proposition. You think you may have created the next best thing since sliced bread, but until you find out, is that really what the market wants? That is the number two reason most businesses fail, is that you've created something people don't want at that time. They may change their mind, but and a lot of times technology isn't there. We take our smartphones for granted, but companies that had a great idea, like tracking your running and things like that in 2000, nobody was ready. The technology
Right.
wasn't there for it. So
Yeah.
it's a constant, experiment. So if you don't take it personally and you can look at your business as an observer, you can experiment and pull on threads and have a fun time. But the minute you take it personally and start thinking, what am I doing wrong? That doesn't help you or your business.
So when you look at the businesses that really came through this year, and some of them happen to be in businesses that flourished during
Yeah.
these last few years, and some even made it through, even though the odds were stacked against them. What I found with most founders, with most people who start businesses, they're phenomenal and passionate about an idea, but they lack business skills.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I think if you ever logically look at starting a business, you would never start a business because your odds of making it are, you can come up with a million reasons why you don't.
Right.
What are some of the business, so here I am, either I've 2 years into my business or I'm just getting ready to start. What do I need to know from a business acumen standpoint? And where do I turn and go to learn to get that?
Boy, there's so many. That's such a good question, Meredith. There's so many accelerator programs out there, free ones. Apply to them.
Mhm.
They are going to take you through a 12-week boot camp, maybe longer, maybe less, but they're going to get you thinking like a founder. When you're transitioning out of the role of employee to employer, you're going to have different ways of making things work. And you constantly need to be upping your founder game. This is what we always talk about on the Startup Life Live show. The whole show is wrapped in what a pitch deck would look like. What is your problem? What is your solution? How are you proving that? And as a business owner, you need to constantly be thinking about customer acquisition and knowing what you are good at, what really
Mhm.
makes your heart sing, and delegating everything else. That's one of the biggest mistakes founders think, is they've
Yeah.
got to do it all. Absolutely not. Find the money, borrow it. And frankly, you don't always need to raise money, folks. We're talking about this on Friday on the show about bootstrapping, how important that is for you, and how do you do that? And so I'm the companies that I have seen that are, of course, they're taken off that may not have taken off as readily are the telehealth companies, you know, the
Yeah.
telemed companies, boy, because how many of you are now having a Zoom call with your doctor or nurse, right? I mean, like that was unheard of before. So I think in that there's been transitioning there. And then the other place that's been really fun is the gamification of
Yeah.
building teams. So these are the platforms that are using game design basically to create the team feeling. So work is an example where you can go and meet at the tiki lounge and have drinks, so to speak, virtually with your team, you know, because the Zoom is not enough, Slack is not enough, and you're
Yeah.
not seeing people in the office. So it's just so fascinating to watch all the folks finding ways to make this environment work because founders are so clever. They're so into problem solving. There's just been a ton of pivots this last 2 years.
So what have been from what's one of your favorite stories from the founders that you've interviewed and companies that have started? What's been one or two of your favorite stories?
Well, thank you for asking. I've got several,
I
but one of
bet.
my favorites is a gentleman who went through med school, was working in ICU. Okay. This is a lot of investment in their time in life, right? In
Yeah.
education. And what he kept hearing from his patients that were dying was that, geez, I wish I had pursued my passion. I wish I had pursued my dreams. And he was sitting there going, well, you know, I really love medicine, but I don't really love
Yeah.
medicine. He leaves medicine. He goes into ed tech, and he is one of the first people in Harvard University's incubator. And he's raising money to do like a Spotify for education. When in June of 2020, he says, nope, I'm creating a gamified platform for people to connect. I can see already remote teams are not connecting the way they should. People who are out of the office, they're getting their work done, but the connection isn't there. He's created this whole platform. It was initially called Sophia. Now it's called So Work. And then he already had investors. How do you tell investors the story? Oh, you know, I was doing this, but now I'm doing this.
Right.
It was mind blowing, but you know, the investors really believe in him as a founder, and they were like, "Nope, we're in it with you. We believe that if this is where you're saying it's going, then we're going with you." To me, that was mind blowing.
So how do you know when you're ready for an investor?
Ooh, if you're looking at a situation where a line of credit won't work, where you can't borrow the money, and you know that maybe 500,000, and you're talking pre-seed money, this is before you get into the Series A where you might go more formal. You really want to have enough traction so you've got enough value in your business. People raise money too soon and they give up too much of
Yeah.
their ownership, their equity in their business. So we talk a lot about this on the Startup Life Live show. This is one of my questions because if you raise it too soon, you're going to have, you know, not as much ownership, but if you wait too long, you might not have the oxygen to keep your business going. And now look, you can be a slow grow like MailChimp. MailChimp never took money and they just sold for over $1 billion. Okay.
Wow.
Only, you know, family and friends, and they just used the customers to keep feeding the company and building it that way. Not many people actually get funding. That's why we have so many organizations out like Clearco
Mhm.
and Mercury Bank and places like that who are making it easier for founders to get debt financing for the business so that you can then pay it back and not give up equity in your business. But that's going to be dependent on, you know, if you've got a life science business that's going to have a runway of at least 7 years before it gets FDA approved and out in the market, yeah, you're going to have to raise money to do what you need to do. But and just be careful out there. People are always talking about how there's tons of money out there, but when you look at the data, it's in money going to later stage companies.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of bias out there, female founders. You know, there's a great book out there by Debbie Kleiman called First Pitch, I think. First Pitch. And she has a wonderful chapter talking about how to turn conscious or unconscious bias around. We have a lot of stories about that for our people of color and female founders, our LGBTQ founders that we represent on the show. It can be a little tough out there, so you have to be creative.
Yeah, and you have to think like, I mean, that's another place to be understanding, right? I mean, we
Yeah,
all invest in. I've found two levels of bias, and I'm in a little angel investing group, and we tend to invest in what we understand,
yeah,
which probably excludes us from a lot of really good companies
yeah.
because there's so many innovative companies out there that the world is just changing, and sometimes it's hard for an investor to understand. So if you could break that down and really help them make the
Yeah.
connection, and then if you are different from the investor community, you have to understand that you've got to build credibility. Some of that instant credibility that doesn't get there. You
That's
can
right.
label it right or wrong. It just is what it is. So try to cross that mountain.
That's right, Meredith. And also be patient because you do not want money that is not good for you and your business. It will destroy it. You
Yeah.
want aligned investors. And if that means you've got to really become super lean in your life as well as in the business, then do it.
Yeah. Khalil definitely sounds like he's having some challenges out here. He says, when someone steals my idea to create a specific application or project, I could not register it in the intellectual property system for reasons.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. It's difficult out there. I mean, it's,
Well, I
those
have a
guys' ideas.
I have a strong opinion on that though, Meredith. In fact, I have a video on my YouTube channel about what
Okay.
happens. What if someone steals my idea? Trust me, part of it, and this I know in the tech world, you're focused on the tech part, but when you brand your idea, two things. One, walk down the bread aisle, look at all the different technology, the microphones, everything. There's a ton of different options out there for everything, every idea. The person I'm interviewing tomorrow had to grab the name of an already existing company that was just like theirs, and they were able to make it work. Okay.
Mhm.
So remember that. And also with your idea, just know that a lot of people are not going to put the effort. They could even get a patent and great, but they're not going to put in the effort that you're going to put into it. And so I know you've got to shore up and protect your asset, your technology, and your intellectual property. But it is really not that easy to steal an idea. It is much easier to buy the idea. So set your tech up to be purchased. If you think that you're not going to have the money to fund this, build it so that someone will want to buy it and then move on to your next deal.
Oh, excellent. I'm going to put your YouTube channel up here in a moment. Lauren's got a question. Andy, what would you say is the most important thing to learn regarding finding your ideal client?
Oh boy. And I know Meredith can speak to this as well. It's that customer persona. So when you go deep, not into demographics, but into
Yeah.
psychographics and ethnographics, you are going to get a deeper understanding of where that customer is. You're going to understand what motivates them, what their behavior is. And there are wonderful forums. I have ones, shoot me an email, I can send it to you to help you just really identify and start feeling like you really know them, that you're sitting across from coffee with them, and then you go out and you talk to them, talking to the customers that you think are in your category. And trust me, even then when you launch, they're still not going to do what they tell you they're going to do. That's why I always say just launch as soon as you can and
Yeah.
test the water and do the beta. But also I understand the cost of customer acquisition. I've got another great video on my YouTube channel called how to calculate the LTV CAC ratio, which is thrown around all the time. And
Yeah.
many founders are like, say, what is this? I just wanted to launch a business. But it's so important because it's going to show you how much it's going to cost you to find that customer and onboard them and retain them.
I love what you said about, basically just launch the business and learn along the way. I called my business Motion First, and I struggled for years to find the right title, but I called it that because I really believe that we learn through progress. And if
Yeah.
you wait to be perfect, you'll never get a business going. And as far as the ideal client, for years, I went with a demographic. Everybody told me that I had to be in financial services because I came out of the banking world and all these things.
Oh
And then what
boy.
I realized was there's a type of CEO I'm looking for. It's not the industry for me. It's a
That's
cutting edge
right.
individual looking to blow up the business, take it to another level. I mean, like I know all these intricate things about them that when I meet one, I know whether it's my ideal or whether it's not. And when it's my ideal, this is going to be this. It's going to
Yeah,
grow.
and it has nothing to do. It's agnostic to the industry.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
yeah.
Gosh, it is hard to believe, but we are at the end of the show here. I have two more questions for you. Number one is, what is your biggest piece of advice for anybody looking to either keep a startup business going or begin a business as you look into
Yeah.
2022? And then, of course, how do people get a hold of you? I mean, you have amazing things on your YouTube channel. They have got to catch your live stream program. So I want you to tell us all about those things.
Excellent. Well, first of all, Seth Godin, who we all love and adore,
Yeah.
wrote this wonderful book called The Dip. And it's so important that you understand with your business, when is it time to exit? When is it time to say goodbye? Because there's a lot of memes out there that says never give up. I'm going to tell you, don't give up on your dream of owning a business and growing a business, but don't go down a rabbit hole with your business if it's not going to work. Really be careful of that. And so that's my greatest piece of advice is don't listen to the others, really crunch the numbers, be looking at what death valley am I willing to cross through? Because once
Mhm.
you identify that in the beginning, then you know that when you're in that valley, you're like, okay, no, I said it until this happens, I, am going to stay focused. But quitting is absolutely okay. Know thyself. And so that's my best piece of advice. And then, just do it, just do it, just do it, because there's no preparing you for this journey. There's no class you can take. You can only do it. And then to reach me, it's Ande Lyons at ANDELYONS. Everywhere I glow on most Tuesdays and Fridays at 12 noon EST. I am interviewing amazing founders from around the world, sharing their stories. We're a community that's here to add wind to our sails, open doors for each other. And we want to hear from you and find out what you're going through too. And because I amplify businesses throughout the live show as well.
I love that. Be sure to catch that every Tuesday and Thursday, 12
Tuesday and
p.m.
Friday.
Tuesday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on, I imagine, LinkedIn, YouTube,
LinkedIn.
and Facebook.
Yep. And Twitter.
Correct?
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. And reach out at Ande at AndeLyons.com. And we will see you right here next week for another episode of Thrive. I want to really thank our active community today for jumping in, asking questions, and getting the most out of this, because our goal with Thrive is to help everybody turn uncertainty into a major competitive advantage. We'll see you next week.